We made this video strictly to share insights and break down the details. Everything discussed here is just our team's take and shouldn't be treated as absolute truth. We aren't pointing fingers or charging anyone with an offense. Got any leads on Nancy Guthrie? Reach out to the Puma County Sheriff or the FBI hub in Phoenix immediately. Nobody on the national news circuit has spent more time down in Tucson tracking this mystery than Brian Enton. He didn't just drop in for a weekend. The guy spent weeks completely immersed in the Catalina Foothills area. The man literally paced the exact edges of Nancy's yard. He even went live from that eerie pitch-black section of North Camino Escalante, relying entirely on desert starlight since street lamps don't exist there. Locals who dodged every other camera crew actually sat down and talked with him. Not only did he crack inner police circles that shut out competing journalists, but he also pulled off a deep dive nobody else could touch. Enton launched a drone right above Nancy's place, scoring a complete bird's-eye sweep of her entire lot. That footage showed everything from the main entryway and back porch to the garage and the rugged desert around it. It perfectly mapped out exactly how every single building and pathway connected on the grounds. During his Day 59 broadcast on March 31, 2026, Enton reviewed those clips with former Puma County homicide investigator Kurt Dabb. What Dabb spotted in those aerial shots, specifically around the zone swarming with cops, is a massive clue the mainstream networks completely glossed over. In this episode, we are diving deep into those drone recordings, and the clue tied right to Nancy's garage flips the entire narrative of that evening on its head. Stick around, because before we even touch the garage stuff and before unpacking the hidden timeline clue the big networks ignored, we have to explain how perspective photography works. You need to know exactly what those images reveal to a seasoned pro and why a veteran Puma County detective catching cops snapping these specific photos around Nancy's yard is a massive game changer, not just a random detail. If you've tracked this mystery from the jump, you already know the schedule of events and the guy in the mask. You know about the surveillance setup, but what practically zero outlets have broken down properly is a single verified piece of police evidence planted squarely at the start of the evening. We aren't talking about 2:12 in the morning when the masked guy shows up, but rather 9:48 at night when Nancy first pulled in. Once you grasp the whole picture after our deep dive today, you'll be haunted by the exact same thought we can't shake. What was already lurking inside that garage before Nancy Guthrie ever arrived. We have to kick things off with Brian Enton, since his exclusive access forms the backbone of today's theory. As a top-tier national reporter for News Nation, he literally set up camp in Tucson right when the probe kicked off. And when I say he dug in, I mean it. He was pounding the pavement out there, earning trust with locals and insiders, in a style that completely outshines anyone just making calls from a cozy studio in New York. Spending weeks hanging around the block unlocks doors that desk journalists simply cannot open. You figure out the vibe. You memorize the layout. You forge bonds that spill secrets a standard police press release would completely hide. Enton personally hiked the exact road Nancy lived on. He stood out there in the dead of night, realizing firsthand how blindingly dark it gets without a single street lamp. He even chatted with a local named Laura, who dropped her own wild theory about the commotion out front that evening. He got his hands on insider police tips that blew every other major network out of the water, like a whistleblower's take on how the cops fumbled the bag early in the hunt. We'll unpack that later. But Enton's biggest move, and the one crucial to this video, was hovering a drone over Nancy's yard. That kind of unhindered visual access completely raised the bar for reporting on this mystery. An aerial camera provides a top-down perspective that ground-level footage just cannot touch. Standing on the sidewalk only lets you check out the home's facade. You spot the driveway, the porch, and the bushes. But what's totally hidden is how the actual buildings line up from a spatial viewpoint. You can't figure out the distance from the garage to the back gate. You miss the hidden trails, the blind spots, and what a person standing here can actually see versus over there. A drone captures it all completely. You get the full bird's eye view, the exact physical layout of the entire area. Whenever a seasoned detective reviews aerial video from an active scene, They aren't looking at pretty property shots. They are analyzing a tactical blueprint of an incident, spotting evidence flags and precise photo checkpoints. They are tracking the exact steps the previous team took while processing the location long before that camera ever took flight. When Kurt Dabb reviewed that clip, he immediately spotted crucial details the general public completely missed. Kurt Dabb is an absolute master at decoding an area. He isn't some armchair pundit tossing out theories from afar. The man is a veteran major case detective formerly with Puma County. For decades, he actively worked major cases in the precise region and department where Nancy Guthrie vanished. He completely understands the local department's mindset. The layout of those foothills is practically etched into his memory. Beyond knowing the geography, his first-hand background means he recognizes specialized field tactics instantly because he used to run those exact same plays. During an official sit-down with Enton on day 59 of the coverage, Dabb dropped some massive, officially verified insights regarding this situation. From his expert standpoint, Nancy being taken was absolutely not a random event. He confidently described the operation as highly orchestrated and flawlessly pulled off by the people involved. Sadly, the whole thing was deliberately mapped out and zeroed in on a specific target. He officially noted that whoever did this, or their associates, highly likely scouted the residents well before the incident occurred. Well, before January 31st, somebody scoped out that exact property to map out entry routes, security camera angles, vulnerable spots, and specific timeframes. Nothing was left to chance. The entire situation was heavily calculated. He firmly believes a crew pulled this off, estimating a group of 2 to 4 people were working together. His logic is crystal clear. The sheer mechanics of extracting an 84-year-old lady from her house, keeping the inside completely spotless and free of any obvious struggle, and vanishing through a suburban area entirely unnoticed is simply way too complicated for a lone wolf. One person simply cannot juggle that many moving parts at once. He also broke down the state of the property's inside. A detail officially backed by Enton's police contact revealed 0 obvious indicators of a struggle inside the residence. Everything remained perfectly neat and untouched. Dabb himself literally described that specific detail as somewhat bizarre. Yet he quickly pivoted to a classic veteran investigator's perspective. The crew was operating on a strict blueprint. They executed it flawlessly. A pristine living room absolutely does not mean the location was safe. It actually proves just how incredibly disciplined the whole crew truly was. Let's break down viewpoint photography. This is the exact method Dabb spotted in the aerial video, and grasping its role in major incident recreation is crucial. A line-of-sight image involves snapping a picture from one precise spot, capturing exactly what an individual standing right there would have witnessed when the event went down. You aren't just logging the area's current state. You are totally recreating a specific visual vantage point. Law enforcement places the lens at the precise elevation and tilt mirroring where a target person stood. Peeking around a building edge, hovering near the pavement, lurking by a door frame, or right outside a carport. They capture that exact field of vision. They want to know what was clearly in focus and what remained hidden. Would someone standing there spot a car rolling up? Would the main door be in view? How about the main road? Could the watcher track incoming traffic while staying totally hidden? Viewpoint imagery is absolutely never standard procedure. Standard pictures just catalog objects in the room, while line-of-sight imaging practically rebuilds a memory. That difference is a massive deal. Detectives only run this technique once they have a rock-solid working theory regarding somebody's exact coordinates at a crucial second. They aren't just guessing or fishing for clues here. It is entirely about validation, cementing the physical proof needed to back up a sequence of events the team is actively piecing together. The moment Dabb analyzed Enton's aerial clips and spotted officers clearly capturing line-of-sight visuals around the yard, particularly mapping out the driveway and carport zones, his seasoned detective instincts immediately translated the situation. Law enforcement already had a very clear working theory. Investigators were confident about the suspect's exact location, making sure to capture the evidence. Consider the gravity of DAB telling Enton during their Day 59 broadcast that the partners might have been permanently removed from the equation. He noted, It certainly would not be difficult at all for whoever is calling the shots to simply decide they needed to get rid of their associates. Quoting him directly, the mastermind behind the crew could easily choose to permanently deal with the co-conspirators. While purely an educated guess rather than hard evidence, this theory perfectly aligns with the tactical scenario he outlined. A highly disciplined crew of 2 to 4 people pulling off such an intricate taking, ensuring the inside remained spotless while maintaining total command over the environment. And scouting the house beforehand proves these were absolutely no amateurs. We are dealing with pros here, and highly orchestrated crews facing enormous legal heat inherently face massive internal threats once the job concludes. Why does this matter? It reveals the sheer skill level and extreme professionalism of the suspects involved. Davey is definitely not referring to reckless or sloppy criminals. He means experts capable of orchestrating the targeted snatching of an 84-year-old resident from her own secured private community, pulling the job off so flawlessly that literally 0 physical clues remained inside, then vanishing entirely despite a $1 million bounty, massive task force efforts, and countless months of intense police scrutiny. This represents a remarkably sophisticated skill set which completely alters how we need to analyze the events around the garage area. We aren't asking if a random person just got lucky pulling into Nancy's driveway. The real mystery is whether a stalker who studied the grounds and memorized every architectural detail, understood all access points, and intentionally hid in a precise spot long before Nancy ever pulled up. That 2-minute gap involving the garage was never a coincidence. It was a highly calculated move. When detectives snapped those viewpoint photos near the parking bay to map out precise visual angles, they were building a solid case detailing the suspect's exact hiding spot and field of vision during the setup. Let us examine the estate and the surrounding landscape. Nancy Guthrie's residence rests within the Catalina Foothills, nestled right by East Skyline Drive and North Campbell Avenue above Tucson. Picture the area pitch-black roads, lacking lamps, with wild desert terrain creeping right up to the property lines. The Santa Catalina Mountains looming away and houses spaced out so widely that anyone sneaking around, particularly through the brush after dark, would easily slip right past the neighbors unnoticed. Meanwhile, the main entryway features a smart lens. Authorities verified this device was messed with on the morning of February 1st, though digital forensic teams later salvaged the data directly from Google's servers. The press has been obsessively fixated on this primary doorway. Everyone focuses on the disguised intruder covering the lens with a glove, yet the house boasts a back doorway too. During Savannah Guthrie's very first public interview regarding her mother vanishing, speaking directly with Hoda Kotb on The Today Show, she dropped a massive bombshell regarding the investigation. Those rear entryways had been wedged ajar. Relatives discovered the patio doors intentionally left wide open that morning, no shattered glass or kicked-in frames, just deliberately wedged. Kept unlatched on purpose. Wedging an entrance implies an intruder either planned a quick getaway or just walked through it. That detail absolutely rules out signs of a chaotic scuffle. Reviewing all the accessible press photos and video clips released during the probe, you can also spot the estate's parking bay. While easily seen, this structure barely got any media traction. However, viewing the drone footage supplied by Enton's reporting, the physical layout connecting the parking area, the driveway, and the back door, along with all access routes, suddenly makes perfect sense in ways street-level pictures just failed to capture. Then there is the neighboring empty parcel, creating a massive security blind spot for the entire community. Any stalker scouting Nancy's house would realize that sneaking through that empty plot straight toward the backyard practically guarantees bypassing security lenses and avoiding detection. A criminal actively trying to dodge security measures would inevitably pick this exact route. DAB stated publicly that the target was heavily monitored beforehand, meaning the culprit strolled the streets and plotted everything out. Given his extensive background as a veteran major crimes investigator, AB firmly believes the perpetrators memorized every single landscape detail, especially that abandoned empty parcel, that unobserved angle, the back doorway, the car bay, and a perfectly shielded walkway. None of these elements exist in a vacuum. They paint a picture of a layout meticulously studied beforehand. It all centers around the evening of January 31st, specifically the formal timeline of Saturday, January 31st, 2026. Let's break this sequence down step by step. Around 5:32 p.m., Nancy Guthrie headed out for a gathering at her daughter Annie's place, joining her son-in-law, Tommaso Cion, for a meal. She enjoyed the gathering with her relatives, and everyone agreed it felt like an absolutely ordinary night without a single red flag. She fully intended to join a virtual Sunday service the next morning, an appointment she tragically wouldn't make. Fast forward to 9:48 that night when a relative brought Nancy back to her residence. Tommaso Cion holds the distinction of being the final individual to witness Nancy Guthrie breathing. At 9:48 p.m., her vehicle bay opened up, shutting securely just 2 minutes later at 9:50 p.m. Authorities have verified these exact times, and various major news networks have backed them up using the formal sequence of events. We're talking major publications like the Associated Press, ABC 15 Newsweek, and the Washington Times. That vehicle bay opens exactly at 9:48 and secures shut at 9:52. This remains the absolute heavily verified sequence of events. Suddenly, the established record hits a dead end for over 3.5 hours until the front porch surveillance mysteriously drops offline at 1:47 on the morning of February 1st. Police officials completely backed this detail up. Detectives originally claimed footage didn't exist due to a lapsed security subscription on Nancy's end, but that turned out to be only half the story. Cyber specialists digging through the system's hidden back-end data managed to salvage visuals previously deemed hopelessly broken or permanently gone. Precisely at 2:12 a.m., the system registered activity near the main entrance, then jumping to 2:28 a.m. The medical monitoring app for Nancy Guthrie's heart device severed its connection sometime during that crucial 16-minute span between 2:12 and 2:28. A disguised intruder lingered by the entryway, carrying a weapon and rocking a highly recognizable 25-liter Ozark Trail hiking bag, layered hand protection, and gripping a flashlight between their teeth. Strapped with a weapon, they messed with the security lens, blacking out the view and utilizing a convenient bush to completely hide the hardware. To this day, authorities haven't put a public name to this suspect, slapped cuffs on anyone, or even hinted at an official person of interest. That disguised shadow, caught at 2:12 a.m., remains the absolute focal point for news outlets constantly looped, dissected, and debated online. It's literally the foundational picture shaping everything the masses know about this mystery. Yet that specific snapshot completely ignores a massive 4-hour and 22-minute gap starting right when the car bay shut at 9:50 p.m. up until the motion sensor tripped at 2:12 a.m. That creates a massive blind spot in the official narrative, kicking off the exact second that parking bay sealed shut. Things shifted when Enton launched an aerial device over New York's land on day 59, capturing exactly what detectives were up to down below. Those sky-high clips finally offered audiences a perspective that standard pictures and street-level news crews simply couldn't deliver. We suddenly had a bird's-eye view of the tragic location's entire blueprint, revealing exactly how every building and pathway connected to one another. It exposed the infiltration routes and showed the exact travel distance linking the main curb to the backyard. You could easily map out the car bay compared to the rear doorway and see how that tied into those wedged-open entryways. Plus, during a specific follow-up sweep by authorities, sky cameras operated by Enton's squad and a separate Fox News helicopter caught detectives aggressively combing through the area. The Fox News flying camera recorded someone propped up on a stepladder actively drilling into the exterior back wall of New York's house. Step stools and power tools definitely aren't part of your standard police photography gig. Nobody hauls heavy hardware just to snap a few wide shots of a perimeter. That signals some serious hands-on evidence extraction. They were actively ripping out pieces of the architecture, physically securing materials straight from the property's bones, or perhaps retrieving a crucial clue buried deep inside that drywall. Enton's personal aerial recordings caught the team mid-search, handing Dab the perfect top-down angle to realize cops were framing very intentional line-of-sight photographs in key spots. Looking from above, Dab perfectly pinpointed the exact coordinates where forensics had been strategically staging themselves and their lenses. Unsurprisingly, a huge chunk of that focus heavily targeted the perimeter of the vehicle bay. Let's be clear, Dab isn't just throwing wild guesses at a wall here. The guy utilized these exact forensic strategies throughout his tenure working major crimes, meaning he easily spots the tactic from any conceivable angle. Seeing cops plant themselves in those precise zones proved they were already testing a solid working theory regarding who was standing where and exactly what time they did it. They were literally constructing the physical proof right then and there to back up their timeline. Now factor in a secret informant, a green team, and constant property visits. An undercover police source spilled details to Enton completely off the record. We're fully treating this as unverified intel from an anonymous tipster, and you should take it with that exact grain of salt. Released officially and through Enton's column over at News Nation, this whistleblower claimed the original squad tackling New York's mystery was wildly underqualified for handling major fatal investigations. When this case first dropped, the crew that showed up definitely weren't seasoned major crimes investigators. Word on the street from our insider is that the boss leading the squad had zero experience handling a fatal incident before landing that promotion. Our source claims those rookie mistakes happened because the folks calling the shots got their jobs through buddy-buddy connections, not actual skills. Just a heads up, this is an unverified tip from one unnamed individual. Puma County authorities haven't backed it up or shot it down, but here's why it heavily impacts the garage situation. If a squad of rookies really bungled the initial sweep of that location, then all those repeat visits to the house aren't just about chasing fresh leads. They're fixing their own blunders. It means authorities are returning weeks later to handle basic detective work they totally missed right after Nancy vanished. Assuming they half-baked the first sweep of the garage, and if the angle photos DAB spotted in the drone video are just them redoing a botched timeline setup, then keeping quiet about their discoveries isn't your standard operational secrecy. It's the awkward hush of a unit desperately trying to backtrack and cover their initial tracks. DAB actually hinted at this whole mess himself. He noted they eventually did a solid sweep. He explained, you lock down everything possible. You call in the evidence techs, the camera guys, and they document it all. They dust for prints. They take biological samples. Whenever foul play is on the table, you secure every single item and document the whole setup. Photos, prints, bioswabs, all of it. Just because a place looks perfectly tidy doesn't give authorities a free pass to skip areas. You comb through every square inch, especially that garage. And that's the huge detail everyone completely glossed over. It's right there in the official police breakdown, fully verified, backed by multiple sources, yet shockingly brushed aside. At 9:48 p.m., Nancy pulls up and pops the garage. At 9:50 p.m., it shuts. 2 minutes flat. On paper, it looks super simple. Like she just rolled in, hit the remote, stepped inside, and the door dropped down right behind her. That's the basic narrative the mainstream news swallowed without a second thought. She got there, she went indoors. Everyone just let that assumption slide, but honestly, that completely ignores the glaring red flags DAB caught while reviewing that drone tape. It completely fails to explain why authorities kept zeroing back in on that exact spot. And it definitely doesn't answer the massive question burning in the mind of a veteran sleuth who spent his whole career analyzing these specific situations. Was a shadowy guest already waiting in the house before Nancy even pulled up? DAB publicly stated that pulling this off took a crew of 2 to 4 people. He mentioned the target location was scoped out before the Yanto incident. He pointed out that this squad executed their scheme so flawlessly that the inside was left spotless. No mess, zero chaos, not a single sign of a scuffle indoors. All the physical red evidence was out on the front porch, strictly outside, zero indoors. Seriously picture the sheer logistics of a highly orchestrated snatch and grab at a private home. That masked guy spotted at the door at 2:12 a.m. That's just the final act. They were either breaching the place or doing cleanup after the main event. A crew that carefully stalked and mapped out this entire thing definitely wouldn't just casually roll up at 2:12 in the morning. They'd slip in way earlier when the whole block was dead silent, striking during the perfect window to get set up entirely undetected. The garage went up at 9:48. Nancy pulled in right at 9:48. The door dropped at 9:50. 2 minutes. If a threat was already lurking inside or out back when she got there. Hiding out in the garage, the back door, or anywhere along her path into the living room. Then that quick 2-minute cycle of the door opening and closing wasn't just her coming home. It was the exact split second their stealthy setup shifted into a direct ambush. That's the exact scenario those angle photos around the garage are meant to piece together. It's the precise timeline DAB derived from the aerial clips. That's exactly what a veteran major crimes expert notices when he spots techs snapping hyper-specific photos around a critical incident zone. We keep our facts razor sharp. Look, this is deep dive theory, not absolute gospel. The cops haven't officially revealed what actually went down during that crucial 2-minute gap. Nobody knows what the squad uncovered in the EU garage yet, but we know for sure those angle shots exist. DAB called it out. They zeroed in on the garage, and those specific angle photos are strictly used for piecing together major physical altercations. Official reports confirm the garage door cycled shut within a 2-minute time frame, exactly 4 hours and 22 minutes before cameras caught that disguised individual approaching the main door. Inside remained completely untouched, but someone purposely propped open those rear doors. Detectives kept coming back to search the premises because that parking structure plays a massive role here. Everything might have started right there. Savannah Guthrie actually verified that upon arriving at NY's residence that morning, relatives discovered those rear access points inexplicably left ajar. She recalled feeling completely thrown off by the strange setup. NY left her mobile device and handbag sitting right there indoors, offering absolutely zero clues about the situation. Relatives briefly wondered if paramedics had rushed Nancy to a hospital, especially since the indoor area showed absolutely zero traces of foul play. The concerning physical traces were strictly outside on the front porch. This leaves us with an untouched living room, open back entries, alarming evidence by the main doorway, and a garage cycling shut within a 2-minute stretch at 9:48 at night. Finally, a disguised individual showed up out front at 2:12 in the morning, 4 hours and 22 minutes afterward. Detectives piecing together the timeline across the estate are juggling every single one of these timeline markers at once. That wedged rear doorway points to deliberate staging out back, while the outdoor traces indicate a severe physical confrontation happened near the street. Finding the house completely tidy implies an incredibly calculated situation, making that 9:48 garage movement the absolute starting point of this nightmare. Taking visual reference photos around that structure aims to solve one major puzzle. If someone stood hiding there, what exactly did they witness when NY parked at 9:48 that night? How clear was their vantage point, and what exact route connected that hiding spot straight inside the house? Furthermore, what do the environmental clues scattered around this zone reveal about the timeline and the culprit? These mysteries definitely have solutions. Law enforcement holds the keys, but the public files remain completely empty, leaving everyone frustrated by this massive, unresolved gap. Let us face facts about the current situation. Nancy Guthrie vanished without a trace on February 1st, 2026. While authorities and the FBI are actively digging, nobody is in cuffs yet, and 0 suspects have been officially identified. That staggering $1 million bounty remains completely untouched. DAB actually floated an interesting idea regarding why that massive payout hasn't tempted anyone. He suggested the main culprit might have permanently quieted any partners in order to keep their dark secrets buried. Quoting his exact statement, he noted that the ringleader could easily choose to take such drastic measures. Of course, that represents his personal educated guess rather than proven truth, so we are framing it carefully. Ultimately, our audience is simply watching an unfolding active inquiry. Detectives are constantly revisiting sites and carefully analyzing collected items, utilizing advanced forensics without sharing the outcomes publicly. Honestly, the disconnect between police knowledge and community awareness is absolutely massive right now. That parking structure embodies this secrecy perfectly. What truly went down during those 2 minutes? What clues emerged during the official sweep? What exactly did those viewpoint photographs capture? And how did mapping that zone clarify the exact start of that terrible evening? We can absolutely figure these things out. Solutions are hiding inside the official case files, and anyone discussing this mystery should be pushing hard for transparency. What or who was lurking in that structure the moment Nancy Guthrie pulled up? If you caught Enton's Day 59 breakdown and spotted a detail in the aerial clips that matches tonight's deep dive, or if your perspective on that property has shifted, drop your thoughts below. Our viewers have actually uncovered critical elements before they directly influenced the official probe. Your input is vital, so keep digging. Remember, Nancy Guthrie vanished back on February 1st, 2026. As an 84-year-old woman, she had loved ones and a congregation still desperately hoping for her safe return. Anyone holding clues must call the Pima County Sheriff at 5-2035-149 or the Phoenix FBI. We created this content strictly for educational, analytical, and informational viewing. Every theory shared here reflects our own perspective, not verified police evidence or official legal judgments. Any stated facts are backed by legitimate experts or proven public documentation available when we publish this. Whenever we rely on an anonymous tip, we make sure to clearly disclose that detail up front. Nobody featured here is being accused or labeled as a suspect whatsoever. Our analysis is absolutely not meant to disrupt or get in the way of active police work. Please check directly with the Pima County Sheriff and FBI press releases for completely accurate case updates. Nancy's relatives have neither screened nor given their stamp of approval to our breakdown. Should you know anything regarding Nancy Guthrie vanishing, please immediately alert the Pima County authorities. Phone the sheriff at 5-2035-149 or the Phoenix Bureau tip line at 180. Ring the feds. We often believe that quiet streets, affluent neighborhoods, and locked doors are enough to keep the darkness at bay. The tragic disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie shatters that comforting illusion. It reminds us in the most heartbreaking way that true security isn't just about motion sensors or smart cameras. It is about deep, proactive awareness. When calculated predators study our daily routines, map out our blind spots, and wait in the shadows of our own homes, technology alone cannot save us. Nancy's story is a chilling warning that we must look beyond the screen. Our elders, our mothers, grandmothers, and the pillars of our families deserve to spend their golden years in absolute peace, not as targets for those who lurk in the dark. This tragedy urges us to be more vigilant. We need to check on our vulnerable neighbors, pay closer attention to the empty lots and unlit pathways in our neighborhoods, and never ignore that gut feeling when something seems slightly off. We must become the watchful eyes that security lenses cannot be. Let this unresolved mystery be a profound lesson. A connected, watchful community is always the strongest shield against the unthinkable.